Hi, and welcome to the seventh video in our cybersecurity lab for beginners. So today we are going to be taking a look again at pfSense. So we've installed pfSense last week and got that configured and moved all of our VMs from our VirtualBox network onto pfSense. And now what we're actually going to do is we're going to add Snort into our pfSense box to have that intrusion protection system in our pfSense virtual machine or our firewall. So we will actually be able to block incoming connections that we don't want. We're going to be setting up a rule and we're actually going to be testing it from our host computer. So let's go ahead and let's actually get started. Let's actually just do a few tests off the bat to see if we can actually even do this right away, because we're actually going to have to make some configurations to our pfSense to be able to test this out properly without really making our home lab a dangerous situation. So let's go ahead on our host computer. We can go ahead and actually open up a command prompt here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to ping the IP address of the WAN of my pfSense here. So if we just do a ping 192.168.50.213 here, which is what my IP is, you're going to see I don't get any response. So what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to expose our Metasploitable 2 machine to our host through a port forwarding rule. And this will actually let us also test our snort capabilities. Because typically you would want to prevent access from outside or also protect your virtual machines from making calls out to the internet. Now, as you can remember, we actually made a specific rule in our last video in our LAN rule to not allow our virtual machines to communicate outside. We're going to disable this shortly just to show you guys again some of the features in Snort. But let's go ahead and let's actually expose our Metasploitable 2 machine to our host. So we're going to want to click on firewall here at the top and then click on NAT and then import forward, which will be the by default the opening page here. We are going to click add here. And then we're going to keep the interface as WAN, the address family, we're going to keep that as IPv4. Protocol, we're actually going to keep that as any for now, because what I actually want to do is I want to test SSH and a ping. You could easily create two very specific rules to definitely limit that down. But honestly, right after this, I'm going to be taking the rule off. So for us, it doesn't really matter. And I don't have any I'm not exposing the pfSense outside to the actual whole internet. I am just exposing it to my network here at home that is outside of the home lab. So our destination is going to be with the WAN address and then the redirect target IP. We are actually going to put that here as our IP address of our Metasploitable machine. So on our Metasploitable machine, I do an if config here. We can see that the IP address is 172.30.2.101. So let's go ahead and let's put that in here. So 172.30.2.101. And we can leave everything else as the default here. We're just going to click on save. And then we're going to click on apply changes. And now if we actually go ahead and go back into our command prompt here where we did the ping and we relaunch that ping, you're actually going to see that we actually get a response. Now you're going to say, well, how do I know that that is the Metasploitable 2 machine responding? That is where that SSH is going to come into play. Now on Windows, there is a very easy, free, small tool that you can use to do the SSH, other than, of course, the Linux subsystem for Windows here. But if you just go to your favorite search browser and type in PuTTY, there should be something by Green End, which is a free SSH and telnet. There should also be, you're going to want to go to the putty.org, or sorry, it is the Green End. And then there's going to be a download stable here. So I'm going to post the link to the actual download here in the description down below. So it's not going to be super confusing for you guys to get that. I actually already have it downloaded here. So I'm just going to open that up here. and I'm going to do an SSH into our 192.168.50.213, which is of course then going to redirect to our Metasploitable box. So if I go ahead and open that, you're going to see that, hey, we get a security alert. We've never connected to this machine before. Are you sure you want to accept this fingerprint? We're going to click on accept, and we are going to log in as MSF admin. Now, sometimes the first login does take a little bit of time to do once you put in your login here. We're just going to wait a few moments, and then we're going to see the password prompt where we're going to put MSF admin once again. And you're going to see we actually get in and we can see that it is the Metasploitable 2 machine. If I type in ifconfig, we can see that the 172.30.2.101 is still there. If we try to ping google.com, as we can see, our rule from last week is still in effect, so we cannot go outside, but we can actually now go into our Metasploitable 2 machine from our host computer, or technically from any computer on my home network that has access to see that IP address of 192.168.50.213, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. We want to be able to test out our Snort capabilities, and we're going to be able to test that out now. So we can go ahead and we can actually just close this PuTTY window for now. We're going to reopen that up a little bit later. But now we know that it works. Now let's go ahead, and we actually don't want people to be able to SSH into our Metasploitable 2 machine because we know that it is vulnerable. So we want to be able to protect that machine very, very well. Now, of course, the best way to protect that Metasploitable 2 machine would be to apply the fixes. And of course, we already know that the Metasploitable 2 machine is an extremely vulnerable machine, but you always want to make sure that you can practice. Security is all about layers. So if you have that Snort in there, of course, you will be able to see all those SSH connections from the different IP addresses, really limit who should have access to that machine. And then, of course, you can do a lot of security on the actual Metasploitable 2 machine, as in not having a vulnerable SSH service. Also, maybe configuring the firewall on there to also only allow connections from certain IP addresses. But let's go ahead and let's only pay attention to the pfSense and the Snort for now. So to install Snort on pfSense, they have actually made this very, very easy. If we click on System here at the top, and then we go ahead and click on Package Manager, and then we can see installed package. We don't have any currently installed packages. So if we go into available packages here, usually just takes a few moments to load that in. And then we can actually just search for Snort here, and we will actually see Snort 4.1.6. And we can see that Snort is an open source network intrusion prevention and detection system. So let's go ahead and let's install that here by clicking on that little green button, and then we're going to confirm. Now it's actually going to install it all on its own. We don't actually have to do anything from here. All we're going to have to do is do that configuration once it's actually fully installed. And it's really, really quick. So it's already actually installed and it is up. So we can actually go ahead into services here at the top, and then we're going to click on Snort here. And this is where we are going to configure our Snort. So what we are going to want to do is we're going to want to add a Snort interface. We're going to want to add an interface to our Snort here. Our interface that we're going to add is going to be the LAN interface. And we are actually going to leave everything else right now currently as defaults. Now you're going to see this block setting. We are going to actually be playing around with this in just a little bit. But for now, just change the interface to LAN, and you can leave everything else as default and just hit save here. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to click on the rules here. We're going to create a couple different rules here to be able to detect our ping and detect our SSH connection. So let's go ahead. Now this is going to be very similar to the video where we were configuring our Snort rules, which is why I prefer really practicing on that VM, because once you come here, sometimes if you write that rule incorrectly, it won't really give you a really good idea of what could be going on. So let's go ahead and let's type in alert here, ICMP for our ping, any, and we're going to be sending that towards our home So $home underscore net, so our home network on any port. And then our message here is going to be ping detected. And we're going to do a semicolon. And we're going to do SID for the signature ID. Colon. And remember, we have to put a 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. Because if you don't put, it starts at 1,000,000. If you don't start there, you will have conflicts in the signatures. And then we're going to do another semicolon. Now this part isn't mandatory, but we're going to put the revision as 1 in case we need to revise this rule later. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to hit enter. We're going to enter another rule here. We're going to do alert TCP any towards our home net on port 22 because we know that that is the port for the SSH. And we're going to do message. And we're going to do SSH detected. And then our SID here is going to be 1,000,002. And then our revision is going to be 1 as well here. And then we're going to hit save. And then in here, we're going to go back into Snort interfaces because before we can actually test that out, we do need to start Snort on this interface here. So let's go ahead and let's click on that. And here we can actually see that Snort is running. And if we actually refresh this, let's actually just go from here back into Snort interfaces. You're going to see that it is actually still going. And if we refresh it, it's still going as well. Now, if this is starting and then stopping right away, you might have a problem with your rule. You might have a just a typo in there. So you might want to go ahead and relook at those rules. But let's go ahead and let's look at the alerts here. Now, we actually don't have any alerts right now. So let's go ahead, let's open up our terminal on our Kali machine here. And let's go ping 172.30.2.101, which is our Metasploitable 2 machine from our Kali machine. And we are going to see if we refresh this, we will actually see all the pings going back and forth from our Kali box to our Metasploitable machine, which is awesome. Now let's go ahead and let's do our ping from our host machine. All right, so let's let that ping and let's refresh the alerts here. And here you can actually see the IP address of my source machine coming towards that Metasploitable 2 machine with that SSH, with the ping, which is perfect. So now if we actually go ahead and let's open up PuTTY and let's go ahead and let's try to SSH into our Metasploitable 2 machine here. So already, even though I've only put in the username here, we will already see that there is a bunch of SSH detected here. And you can see that it's coming from my host machine. We can see the exact IP address that it's coming from. So now if we just do the password here, and now nothing is blocked because we have not configured the blocking functionality in our Snort here, but we can see that our alerts are working very, very good, which is perfect. That's what we want. So now what we're actually going to do is let's go ahead and let's turn that blocking on and see what happens. But before we actually do that, let's go ahead and we know that we can't currently ping google.com. We know that it's blocked. It's blocked at the firewall level. We will see that we don't see any ping. We just see a bunch of SSH detected. So let's go ahead. Let's actually just disconnect from our SSH session here just to reduce the number of alerts that we're going to be generating. So here we can see that the ping, and let's go and let's remove that firewall rule. So let's go ahead, let's go into our firewall rules, into the LAN rules, and let's just disable the rule that we are blocking anything going to outside. And then let's go ahead and let's ping Google here at the bottom here. You're going to see this at the bottom in my Metasploitable 2 machine, let's ping google.com here. Sometimes this may take a while. There you go. So now the pings are coming back. We can see that the pings are coming. So now if we actually go into services, into Snort, and we go into the alerts, we will actually see the ping coming back from the 142.251.41.78. So let's go ahead and let's just take a look at that. All right, so if we take a look at what that is here, so let's just copy this IP address and let's go ahead. We can actually see where it's coming from back on our ping. We can see that it's coming from a YYZ10, which is probably just a, so if we look at that here, we can see that the IP address belongs to Google. So we can actually see that if our Metasploitable 2 machine is pinging, because that ping has to come back to our virtual machine, we will actually get that back here. So this could be something very, very useful, of course, when a attacker is installing a rat or a C2 and it's going to make calls home. This is what you're actually going to really kind of see. Like that C2 is going to communicate with your machine. And of course, you can have other rules that will say anything going from my home net to anything else, we can also alert on that as well. So that is definitely something that you can easily set up. But for now, we are just going to go ahead. We're going to go back into our rules here, back into our LAN rule, and we're just going to reactivate that because, again, I don't really need Metasploitable 2 machines to have access to the internet. It's not needed. We don't need it. So we're not going to really worry about that too much right now. So now let's go ahead and let's turn that blocking on. So now if we go ahead and into our services, into Snort, we are going to edit our Snort interface and we are going to do the block offenders here. And then we are going to go ahead and we're going to click on save. And now let's go into alerts, and we should not have any recent alerts, and we definitely should not have anything in blocked, which is perfect. So now let's go ahead and from our command prompt on our host machine, let's go ahead and let's try to ping our Metasploitable 2 machine. Now you're going to see one ping works, and then it's going to stop. And that is because the connection got detected from Snort and then it instantly got blocked. So now if we actually go ahead into our alerts here, we are going to see that we actually see our one ping from our host machine to our Metasploitable 2 machine. And you can see this little X here. That's because we are now on the blocked table here. So it is now actually here. And you can actually see that we can actually see that it actually had multiple alerts. Even before we turned the blocking on, it will tell you that it actually had a SSH detected at this time. It'll tell you the last time that it kind of saw it. And we can see here the ping detected that actually caused the block. Now we can actually go ahead and remove this, of course, and try one other time for the SSH. So let's go ahead and let's open up our PuTTY here. And let's do the 192.168.50.213. And now let's go ahead and let's do the MSF admin here. And now if I actually just go ahead and refresh this, we will see that the SSH got detected. And as you can see here, we are just constantly waiting for that password prompt. But if we go into the blocked, we will actually see here that it got blocked, and now our ping shows, our PuTTY shows network error because we got blocked. So we just had enough time to put in that username, and Snort was like, no can do, you are now blocked. Now there are a lot of ways. Now let's say I actually wanted to allow my host machine to communicate to Metasploitable 2 because I know my host machine is safe and is actually expected to communicate to that Metasploitable 2 machine. What we can actually do is let's just go remove the block again, and we can go back into alerts. There are two ways to do this. The very easy way is to add this alert to the suppress list. Now that will work if we go ahead and we add this to the suppress list from here. And then we can also add the ping here. So if you add it into the suppress list, if we actually go in here and you go and look at it, you're going to see that it does it for a very specific signature ID. So you would actually need to add the suppress for all the different things. So if I actually go ahead, so I've suppressed the SSH now. So if we go ahead and we open up PuTTY again, and we go 192.168.50.213, we can type in our username, and you're going to see we will get the prompt for the password here. And there's the prompt for our password. And we can see that we are now in our machine. And if we actually go ahead and refresh this, we actually don't have, the time right now is 14:36 and 14:37 it just turned, but we can see our last detection was for 14:34. And if we actually do a command here, command prompt on our host machine, let me just make this a little bit smaller, and we go ahead and we ping the 192.168.50.213 here, we will see that our one ping goes through, but after that, it just got blocked again. So now I won't even be able to SSH anymore either because my IP just got blocked. So that's where the suppress list is not that nice. And the other thing about the suppress list, which is not that nice personally, is it suppresses the alert log. So if you have rules to detect it, once you're on that suppress list, you will actually stop picking those up. So what we actually want to do, if we want to allow a specific IP address to communicate to our Metasploitable 2 machine, and we only have Snort rules to do that, what we would actually want to do is let's go ahead, let's go into our suppress lists. Now, you can go ahead and try to delete that suppress list, and it's going to tell you that it can't because it's currently connected to an interface. So what we want to actually do is on the Snort interface here, we're going to go ahead and edit that. On the alert suppressing and filtering, what we want to do is go back to the default, go to our suppress list. We're just going to actually delete that because we don't want to use a suppress list at all. But what we will actually be doing is we're going to be configuring a pass list. And we can just leave the name as the default here. And all I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to actually uncheck all of these. And all I want to do is add my host IP address. So 192.168.50.97 here. And let's go ahead and let's hit save. And then what we actually need to do once we create that pass list, you can see that assigned is no. So we need to go back into our Snort interface, go into edit that, and then in here, configure our pass list to our pass list that we just created. And here, if you look at the list, we can actually see our IP address that we have here. The other ones will be the actual IP addresses of the pfSense itself and its local address. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to click on save here. And then what we actually need to do as well is go back into our blocked, and let's actually just go ahead and let's remove our block because we don't want that. Let's go ahead and let's clear our alerts here just to make it a little bit easier to kind of see. So now if we actually go ahead and we ping our Metasploitable 2 machine, we will actually see that it is actually maybe still getting blocked here. So let's go ahead, let's make sure that I typed in that IP address correctly here. 192.168.50.97. Oh, and actually, that is one thing that we actually have to do. So here we can actually see that it still got detected, and that is our actual Metasploitable 2 machine that got blocked. So in the pass list, what we're actually going to go ahead and do is recheck all of these. So what that actually does is it will actually add all the default addresses that you actually have. So if we go back into the Snort interfaces here and we go ahead and view that list, you will actually see that by default, it will actually allow all of our VM addresses that we have configured on our LAN to be okay. It will not auto block those, which is of course very, very important. That was something that I just completely overskipped there. So that should be good. Let's go ahead. Let's remove that block. And let's go ahead and let's give that ping one more go here. And we might have to reconfigure the pass list here. So if we actually look at that and let's go ahead and let's restart our Snort here. We might have to remove it from the block once again. And now there you go. So if you do make any changes to that pass list, make sure you actually restart your Snort. Sometimes I actually quickly forget about that. But like I said, always my videos, I like to keep them unedited so you guys can see the little bit of things that, it's normal to actually forget things. And it is very easy to usually fix. So we can actually see that all of our IP addresses are properly in that pass list. And if we actually go look at the alerts here, we will actually see those alerts. So the alerts still are visible. So if we actually go ahead and clear that now that we know that it's on the pass list and it's not actually getting blocked, but we can actually see that it's actually working. Now, what we can actually do as well is let's go ahead, let's open up our PuTTY here, 192.168.50.213, and let's go MSF admin, and we are just going to wait for our, so here we can actually see already the SSH has been detected, but we haven't blocked anything yet. And there is our password, which is perfect. And if we do an if config here, we can see that that is perfectly fine. So now what we can actually do as well is if we go back into that firewall rule, into our LAN here, and let's just disable that LAN rule where we removed access to the outside here. And let's go ahead and let's ping google.com again. Now, of course, it will take a little bit of time to actually go through. We will see that we get one ping back. And let's just wait a little bit longer and we should just kind of stop seeing. And I'd say that that's pretty safe to assume that it has worked. So now if we go into our Snort here and we go into our alerts, you're going to see that ping that we detected from Google once again actually automatically got blocked. So you can see that it is actually getting blocked and our pass list is actually allowing our host computer to still communicate with the Metasploitable 2, but anything else that's doing a ping to that Metasploitable 2 computer will actually get blocked. Of course, unless it's coming from within the network itself. So if I try to ping the Metasploitable 2 machine from my Kali box here, we actually won't get blocked because our Kali box has a network on a network adapter on that same network of 172.30.2.1. So it won't get blocked because we already know that that is in the allowed list. So that is a really good way to create allowance in your Snort Now, of course, Snort is used as an IPS and IDS, so it is very, very good. And there is a lot of resources online on how to write those rules. And if you're getting issues, how to quickly go around them. But it is a very good way to protect your system, especially if you're just trying to protect blue teaming and trying to protect certain machines. It makes it very, very easy to kind of protect and very easy to test and play around with. And as you saw here, we went from not having access from our host machine to Metasploitable 2 to having access to Metasploitable 2 and being able to completely block it just using Snort. So it was allowed through the firewall, but we had Snort there constantly monitoring that and being able to block it. And also, instead of just blocking all activity outside of our VMs, we were able to remove that firewall rule and put a snort rule to allow it once, and then it would get blocked. And then we can more meticulously control that through snort. Now, of course, snort should not let you be lazy on your firewall rules. Firewall rules should definitely be your first go, but snort is extremely useful for that intrusion protection system. If something is missed, at least you could easily go and check those alert logs and be able to say, hey, this machine isn't supposed to be communicating to our Metasploitable 2. We should be blocking that or doing something along with it. It just gives you a lot of data to be able to do that. Now, before I go ahead and forget, let's just go back to our LAN rule and let's re-enable that block to the outside. Again, we don't need our VMs to be communicating to the internet, so I always turn that rule back on. But that is how you configure Snort in pfSense as an IDS and IPS. Hopefully you guys liked that. If you guys want to see some other things with pfSense, please let me know in the comment section down below. I have some great videos coming up. So next week, there will be a talking head video, and also be on the lookout for that review of our little mini GM Tech computer that we bought on Amazon. I'll be doing a review on that very, very shortly as well. I know that I said that I would do it when we did the unboxing, and I think that I've done enough testing on this machine to really be able to accurately give it a good review. So I will be doing that video quite soon. If you want to see anything else being added into our cybersecurity lab, I know it's already the 7th video, but there's still quite a bit of videos to go because we have a lot. Cybersecurity is just this vast field where there are a lot of moving parts, and I want to give you guys the most exposure to all the different kind of tools that you can use out there. So if you guys have a tool that you guys want to see, also let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Also, be sure to hit that notification bell to be notified when that next video comes out. And I will see you guys on the next video.